Hello everybody, we're back, ready to take over your big screens and go viral. Okay, so for English this week, we are going to continue our work that we started yesterday on The Highwayman by Alfred Noyes. Okay, so yesterday we spent lots of time exploring the poem, thinking about what it actually meant, and then looking closely at those kind of unfamiliar words to think about the meanings of those too. So it may well be, luckily those of you that were in school yesterday took a copy of the poem home with you. If you didn't, the poem will also be online as well. But it may well be that you want to just take a minute to go over it, read it, refresh your memory. And then today we are going to be looking at the figurative devices that Alfred Noyes uses within that poem. Okay, so if you want to pause me, have a read of the poem, come back, that's absolutely fine. If you're ready, we're going to look at those figurative devices. So if you remember, a figurative device is something or a range of things that an author uses to create different effects in their writing. Okay, now term one, we looked at metaphor and simile and a bit of repetition, I believe. And today we're going to recap those things and then look at a new skill as well. So if we start here with my little starter. So on the left-hand side, you can see I've got metaphor, simile, repetition. And on the right-hand side, I've got 3 different sentences. What I'd like you to do, please, is you're going to pause me in just a few seconds, see if you can match up the sentence to the figurative device, and then come back to me and we'll have a look together. Okay? Hopefully you've had a chance to do that. Now, if we just refresh our memories, I'm going to start from the bottom up. Repetition is something where authors repeat either a word or a phrase to create. Often it creates, particularly in poetry, it creates like a certain rhythm, that kind of da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. But also it might be to create atmosphere or tension or something like that. Simile is something where we compare something to something else using as or like. So simile, compare. Metaphor is when we say something is or was something else. Okay, so simile, compare, metaphor, is or was. All right, so if we start on our sentences at the top, we've got knock, knock, knock. The door made a terrifying sound. Hopefully, straight away, we can see we've got that word knock repeated 3 times. And I think, for that, that's creating a lot of atmosphere, isn't it? I hope you like the sound effects. We've got that idea of kind of tension as the knock is building. The next one, we've got his hair was as yellow as the sun and felt like straw. Which one do we think that is? I'm hoping you guys straight away went, that's a simile. The clues to it being a simile, we've got as, so as yellow as the sun and felt like straw. Double bubble there for you. So that one was simile. And then that means the last one should be metaphor. Let's double check it though. The moon was a dazzling, marvellous ball of light and wonder. Yeah, again, we've got that was as a clue, haven't we? So bear with me while I get my highlighter. There we go. Was a dazzling, marvellous ball of light and wonder. We're saying it is something else. Yes, the moon is spherical, but it's not a big old ball, is it? So, yeah, that is that. Okay. Hopefully you're feeling happy with those. If not, what I'd suggest is just maybe pause here before we go on to our new skill. Have a little recap, metaphor, simile, and see if you can think of your own examples. I'd say the main difference, the main thing we want to go over is the difference. Metaphor is or was, simile, compare. Okay? If you're ready, let's move on to something new. So, personification. Does anybody know what this is? Well, there's a clue in the word, and this is the clue I like to use. Personification. Okay, it's got the word person in. Because personification is a type of figurative device. It's a technique writers use. And it's when we give something, like an object, an inanimate object, something that is not living, a human action or quality. We're saying it does something or is like something a human does. All right. So if we look here, for example, the branches danced around in the wind. Well, yes, I know that trees and branches are living, but they don't do actions that humans do. Right. So if we look there, which action can you see, which verb can you see that a human would do, but a tree wouldn't? I hope you managed to spot that it was dance. So we've got our human action, danced. Now you and I, guys, we might be able to break it down, but really trees, they don't know how to dance. I'm sorry to break it to you, but why do we think the author's written that? Well, probably because if you think about, I can see one literally right now. Actually, I've looked out my window and there he is dancing around. When the wind's blowing and it creates the trees to move, it does almost look like they're dancing. So again, it creates a really powerful picture in the reader's head. And then if we look at the next one, so we've got the wind whispered through the dry grass. Again, we've got the action there. We know it's a verb because it's got the ed at the end. Whispered. Is the wind really talking? Is it whispering? No. But the author said it is because we're thinking about that sound that the wind makes. That sentence makes me think, because it's the dry grass, of like the wind across like a really like dry, barren kind of like desert type thing. But it might be, when you're thinking about when you're in the park and that wind's kind of blowing up through the grass, all that kind of thing. So human action or quality for an object that wouldn't normally do those things. Okay. So verbs are going to be our best friends for this. However, we're going to park personification now. And now I want us to explore two skills that we're really familiar with in Alfred Noyes' poem. Okay, and we'll come back to the personification. So you can see here, I've got the first verse of the Highwayman. Okay, and what I'd like you to do for me, and you can either do this if you've got your paper copy, or you could just write it down, whatever works best for you guys. I would like you to have a look at pausing me, colouring in one, it doesn't have to be red and blue, one colour, underline or highlight the metaphor in the poem when we say something is or was something else, and one colour, underline or highlight the repetition for me. Once you've done that, come back, we'll explore together. Okay. Right, hopefully you've had a little go at that. I'm going to start off with the metaphor, because straight away, it's jumped off the page at me. I can see in that first sentence, first line, as it's a poem. The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. Was the wind actually a big stream of darkness? No, but Alfred Noyes has said that to create a picture in our mind. Sorry for my wonky highlighting here. I'm trying desperately to do it with my mouse. Wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. Okay. Again, we look at the second one. The moon was a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas. Now, yesterday we spoke about the fact that a galleon is kind of an old Spanish pirate ship. Is the moon actually a Spanish pirate ship? No, we're saying it is because we're imagining it kind of sailing or floating through the sky. Okay, so again, the moon was a ghostly galleon, and then we've extended it by saying what the ghostly galleon was doing, tossed upon cloudy seas. The road was a ribbon of moonlight. Again, is the road a ribbon? No, but I think it creates that really cool idea of kind of this complete darkness and then just kind of the mystical light of kind of a road breaking through that darkness over the purple moor. And then we've got, and the highwayman came riding. The highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. That repetition just jumps off the page for you, doesn't it? And I think we can see straight away, Alfred Noyes has used that to create, we've got that rhythm. I always think it creates that rhythm of kind of a galloping horse or something. So we've got the highwayman came riding here, riding. I must admit, I think the rhythm of this poem is perhaps my favourite part of it. Fantastic. Highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. And we know that repetition was something Robert Burns used quite a lot as well. So if we think back to Oh My Love, it's like a red, red rose. And we had it kind of across different verses, didn't we? And I think we could see it just creates... It's almost like the heartbeat, the repetition, the heartbeat of the poem I always think of, because it kind of, that drumming kind of sound onwards. So hopefully you guys managed to find that. What I want you to do, I've got one final little mini activity before we move on to our final task, is I want us to bring together kind of our personification, metaphor and repetition understanding, and have a little play with them for the wind, the moon and the road. Those were the three. If I flip back, Alfred Noyes gave us a line about the wind, a line about the moon, a line about the road. I wonder whether you could create your own using each one of those skills. So two choices: mild, You could do one using personification, one using metaphor, and one using repetition. So, one for each, the wind, the moon, the road. Or if you'd like to challenge yourself, you could have a go at coming up with personification, metaphor, and repetition for each. Okay, so if I was going to do one for the wind, I might start by saying the wind was a howling wolf. Okay, now that would be metaphor, because the wind actually isn't a howling wolf. I'm just saying it is to create the image of the sound, okay? If I wanted to use a personification, so giving it a human action, I could keep howling. I want to challenge myself to use kind of different ideas and vocabulary. So I might say something like, the wind was wailing through the trees. And I quite like that idea of kind of a baby kind of wailing through it. It makes a really like horrible, shrill sound, doesn't it? So the wind was wailing through the trees. That would be my personification. And then if I wanted to use metaphor, I guess I could probably use something like whistle, whistle, whistle. The quiet sound of the tree, of the wind through the trees came towards me, or something like that. Okay, so that would be my example for each of those. If you want to pause me, have a little go at creating your own ideas for the wind, the moon, the road. And like I said, I think the main thing I would focus on is getting that idea of personification, action, verb. Okay, using a verb for it. And for your metaphor, just being really careful that you're using a metaphor and not a simile. All right. Once you've had a go at that, let's move on. I'm going to show you your final activity. Okay. So again, I've uploaded a fresh copy of the poem if you would like it from online. Alternatively, there will be, you should have your copy at home as well. What's your activity for today to do? That doesn't make sense. What your activity for today to do, oh my gosh, I've completely lost the plot, is to have a go at upscaling and innovating the poem using your own kind of different ideas. So if we remind ourselves, upscaling is something we do in our writing on a daily basis. It's where we kind of take words or phrases and upscale them to better choices. So perhaps looking for those tier 3 words, those wow words, thinking about how we can use better language. All right, so that's upscaling. Innovating is when we change. It's a bit like redrafting. It's when we completely change to something new. All right. So it might be that we take a whole line or a whole idea and we completely change what it's all about. All right. Today, I would like you to take the poem, The Highwayman, and either you can just focus on the first part of it, so the first 2 or 3 verses, or if you're wanting a challenge, wanting something to get your teeth into, you can have a look at the whole poem. And then you've got 2 choices. Mild, you can just have a look at taking words and phrases within the poem and upscaling and innovating them. So it might be you think, instead of a ghostly galleon, I'd like to change that to something completely different to describe the moon. It might be that there's different words, instead of riding. So instead of riding, you might change that to galloping. Okay, whatever you choose. That's your mild choice, kind of going through and just making little changes. Do a better job than Alfred Noyes could. I know you all could. Your spicy is instead, and I know some of you started doing this yesterday because you're such pros, have a think about going through, find the repetition, metaphor and the simile. We already had a look at the first verse together, and then upscale the repetition, the metaphor, and the simile using your own versions of each. Okay, so rather than just words or phrases, thinking about your very own metaphors, similes, etc. And I bet some of you get a couple of cheeky bits of personification in there as well. All right, so today, focusing on the original poem, I'd really like you to have a go, make some changes. Today is all about playing around. Tomorrow is when we start planning our own poem based on it. So have a little play around, send us anything through, particularly if there's anything you're stuck on, you're not sure about the differences between things, let us know and we can help you with that. All right. Really looking forward to seeing what you guys produce. Have a lovely day and I'll see you tomorrow for some more English.